Have you noticed how life sometimes suddenly flips on you? The high performer who one day cannot get out of bed. The calm colleague who suddenly explodes in a meeting. The person who never says no, who suddenly disappears and cuts everyone off. Today we are going to explore a deep psychological idea behind these reversals. The concept is called Enantiodromia. The term was used by the ancient philosopher Heraclitus and later developed by the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Gustav Jung. It explains why an extreme way of living often turns into its opposite. This is not just abstract theory. It is directly connected to stress, to burnout, to the way your mind tries to protect you. Stay with me. By the end of this episode, you will be able to spot Enantiodromia in your own life. You will also know how to correct your course before the flip happens. Let us start with what many professionals live every day. Always available, always productive, always strong. Emails late at night, messages during lunch. Emotions kept under tight control in every meeting. In psychology, we talk about homeostasis. This word describes the way the body tries to maintain internal balance. The idea was described in detail by the physiologist Walter Cannon in his work on the wisdom of the body. When stress becomes chronic, the hormone system, the nervous system, and even the immune system stay on constant alert. For days, for weeks, sometimes for years. Research on burnout confirms what many people feel. Psychologist Christina Maslach, whose Maslach Burnout Inventory is one of the most widely used tools in occupational health, describes burnout as 3 combined experiences: emotional exhaustion, distance or cynicism toward the job, and a reduced sense of personal accomplishment. Her work, published in journals such as Annual Review of Psychology and in the book The Truth About Burnout, shows that persistent work overload and lack of control are strong predictors of this state. The World Health Organization now describes burnout as an occupational phenomenon in its diagnostic manual. It is linked specifically to unmanaged stress in the workplace. So you push yourself, you keep going, you ignore the signals. Then something inside you says, "Enough." This is where enantiodromia appears. The extreme position you have held for too long begins to move toward its opposite. What exactly is enantiodromia? The word comes from Greek and appears in fragments of Heraclitus. He observed that opposites constantly turn into each other. Cold becomes warm, warm becomes cold, wet becomes dry, dry becomes wet. Many centuries later, Carl Gustav Jung brought this idea into analytical psychology. In his book Psychological Types, first published in 1921, Jung describes enantiodromia as the emergence of the unconscious opposite over time. In simple words, when one tendency dominates your conscious life for too long, an opposite tendency grows in the background. It grows quietly until it finally breaks through your control. So in everyday language, enantiodromia is what happens when you live in an extreme way. You push away the opposite tendency, and after a while, the opposite crashes into your life and takes over. It acts like a psychological law of balance. Let us bring this down to real human experience. 3 short stories. First story, the controller who breaks. Imagine Claire, a senior project manager. For 10 years, she is the reliable one. She never shows fear. She never cries in front of anyone. Her private motto is simple. If you want it done, do it yourself. She works late. She checks every detail. She keeps her team under strict control. From the outside, this looks like success. Inside, something else is happening. The softer parts of her personality are pushed away. Her need for rest, her need for support, her need for real connection. Then the flip begins. She starts forgetting simple things in meetings. She cannot concentrate like before. She feels a deep emptiness that no promotion can fix. One morning, she wakes up and realizes she cannot go to work. Her body refuses. Her mind is exhausted. The person who never allowed any weakness can no longer function. This is not only stress. It is the opposite quality pushing back. The hidden vulnerability, the unspoken needs, the ignored limits. This is Enantiodromia. Studies on burnout and work strain describe this pattern very clearly. Long exposure to high demands, low control, and low recovery time leads to emotional exhaustion and a strong wish to withdraw from work. These findings appear across many occupational health studies and are consistent with decades of research by Maslach and other scholars in the field of stress and coping. Second story, the conflict avoider who explodes. Think of Thomas. He hates conflict. At work, he always says, "It is fine, no problem." Even when colleagues cross his boundaries, he takes extra tasks. He accepts unfair comments. He tries to keep everything smooth and pleasant. He never says what he really feels. Over time, resentment grows. The unsaid words accumulate inside him like pressure in a closed bottle. One day, during a meeting, a colleague makes a small comment. It is not a huge thing, but it is the last drop. Thomas explodes. His voice gets louder. His face turns red. He says everything he has been holding back for years. People are shocked. They say, "This is not like Thomas." Once again, the extreme position, "I must always keep the peace," has turned into the opposite. "I no longer care. I will attack." Research on emotion regulation and suppression supports this pattern. Studies published in journals such as the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology show that constant emotional suppression is linked to higher physiological stress and sudden outbursts, rather than calm and control in the long run. Third story, the perfectionist who becomes paralyzed. A young consultant is proud of his perfectionism. Every slide, every email, every sentence must be flawless. At first, this looks very professional. Clients love the quality of his work. Managers trust him with important projects. But over time, something changes. The internal standard becomes higher and higher. The fear of making a mistake becomes stronger and stronger. One day he realizes that he cannot start tasks anymore. He looks at the screen and feels blocked. The project is too important. The standard in his mind is too high. His body refuses to begin. What looked like high performance has turned into complete paralysis. Once again, an extreme has become its opposite. Clinical research on perfectionism, for example, studies by Paul Hewitt and Gordon Flett in journals such as Psychological Assessment, shows that perfectionism is strongly associated with anxiety, depression, and avoidance. The attempt to be perfect often leads to the inability to act at all. So how can you work with Enantiodromia in your own life? Let us turn this into a short guided reflection. You can do it silently while you listen. First, notice your personal extreme. Ask yourself, where am I living in an extreme way? Where do I ignore my own limits? Where am I always in control, always available, always positive, always strong? Choose one clear situation from your professional life. Maybe your inbox, maybe your schedule, your availability to clients, your role in meetings, your relationship with your manager. Second, look for the hidden opposite. Ask yourself, what opposite tendency might be growing inside me? If I continue like this, what could explode later? Some common patterns. Constant control often hides a deep need to let go and be cared for. Constant people-pleasing often hides anger and the wish to say no. Constant performance often hides exhaustion and the wish to stop. Interestingly, Jung did not present Enantiodromia only as a problem. In his collected works, he also described it as a potential path toward greater wholeness, when the conscious mind learns from the energy of the opposite instead of fighting it. Third, make one small conscious correction. Instead of waiting for a crisis, you can introduce small movements toward the opposite. For example, the always available manager chooses one evening each week with no work messages at all. The conflict avoider practices one simple boundary sentence. For instance, "I cannot take this extra task today. My schedule is already full." The perfectionist decides that one document each week will be submitted when it is simply good enough, not perfect. These are small, conscious steps. They reduce inner pressure. They lower the risk of a dramatic flip later. To close, Let us do a very short self-check. Take one area of your life where you feel you are at an extreme. Give it a mental score from 0 to 10. 0 means balanced. 10 means completely one-sided. Now ask yourself 2 questions. First, what opposite energy might be building inside me if I stay like this? Second, what is one small action this week that can bring a little more balance? If you want, you can write this in a journal. You can also share one insight in the comments so others can recognize their own patterns. So that is Enantiodromia. When we push one side of ourselves too far, the other side does not disappear. It waits, it gathers strength, and at some point, it comes back, often in a way we cannot ignore. If you recognize yourself in the controller, the peacekeeper, or the perfectionist, remember this. This is not a moral failure, it is a human pattern that ancient philosophers like Heraclitus, modern clinicians like Jung, and contemporary researchers such as Maslach, Hewitt, and Flett have all described in different ways. The invitation is simple. Notice your extremes. Welcome the opposite before it has to crash your life. Design a way of living that respects your psychological balance. If this episode helped you put words on something you are living, let me know in the comments. Share it with someone who is clearly heading toward an extreme. And if you enjoy deep but practical psychological insights like this, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next one. You are not a machine. Your psyche is always trying to find balance. Your task is to listen before it has to shout.